you can love those around you and want to, be all that you can be on the job, all that you can be to your family, your spouses, your kids. But if you don't take care of your star player, all those things that you worried about, it doesn't even matter because you're going to burn out.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome back to You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions in Iowa. Today, Krissa and I are joined by a guest host. You guys have heard her 3 times previously on the show. We've got Carell Richards joining us back again from In Divine Time. Welcome, Carell.
I am so excited to be here on the other side. And as she has mentioned, my name is Carell Richards, and I am a transformation catalyst and chronic pain hypnotherapist.
And I'm Krissa Hunt. I am Vice President at Heart and Solutions in charge of our behavioral health department. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
All right. So today we've got one of our, I feel like now the last 2 episodes, I've said this twice now, but legitimately one of our favorite guests ever coming back to join us today. We've got Tenesha Gatson. She is a huge advocate for mental health care. She is an advocate professionally. She's an advocate on social media, just spreading the word about fighting the stigma of mental health care and also empowering parents and just individuals to be able to gain that support through therapy for themselves and for their children. We've talked in previous episodes about various mental health conditions. We've talked about what it's like being in that administrative capacity that Tenesha has been in, and the tips that she brings to people coming from that perspective. We've also talked about what to do as a parent and how to navigate IEP meetings and 504 meetings and coordination with the school and how to get that support for our children. So welcome, Tenesha. Thank you for coming back. We love having you here.
Thank you guys for inviting me back for the 4th time. Like she said, my name is Tenesha Gatson, and I'm a huge advocate for mental health and wellness. That's something I'm very, very passionate about. And all of my social media is focused on mental health and wellness as well as my blog. So I dive into various topics on the lines of mental health, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. So just an array of diagnoses and what does that look like and how you can seek help and ways to. Just recently, this week, I just talked about like different types of therapies because there's so many different kinds. It's not just sit on the couch and talk to someone form of therapy for a therapy solution. I talked about journaling. You have art, music. Like it's so many forms of therapy you can use to cope with a situation. And I've really kind of been on a tangent of dealing with chronic pain. Like I finally, like on my TikTok, I was, exposing my followers to the fact that I suffer from chronic pain and how that chronic pain, affects my life. And if people don't understand, if you don't feel good physically, you don't feel good mentally, and vice versa. I I think dealing with chronic pain for people who don't understand, and even your loved ones, they don't understand, like it's debilitating. It's you get into a depressive state, and everybody handles depression a little different. I know for me myself, when I'm depressed, I get withdrawn. So I don't like to be a Debbie Downer to the people around me, or even to, my children or loved ones. So I tend to um, isolate. And till I figure it out, it's like, okay, I gotta figure like what is the solution. In terms of me doing that, I have anxiety real bad. So I have trouble sleeping because my mind won't shut off because I'm thinking about, okay, what's the next move? What can I do? Like so it's like a huge balance. It's like even though I'm an advocate for it, it's like I have things that I suffer with myself and I'm very transparent about, my anxiety and sometimes my depression and dealing with chronic pain and how that affects my life. Like a lot of times you might see it on my social media, like in December, I was in hospital for 21 days related to my chronic pain. I have a condition called lymphedema. And with my condition, it causes me to gain an excess of up to 62 pounds of fluid on my lower extremity. So I even show like in the video, like the tuba grips that I wear every day. Like when I get out the bed, after I shower, I have to put these compressions on to keep the fluid down on my legs. Sometimes I have to be on fluid restriction. So a lot of times people see me and think like because I'm a morbidly obese woman, thinking like, oh, she has all these health issues. And I really don't have any health issues other than the lymphedema and, the depression and anxiety that I have. And so for me to combat that, I was just explaining to people like, I take a water pill every day to try to reduce the fluid. I take gabapentin to help with the pain because it's like a nerve type of pain too, because I have peripheral neuropathy, which um, every 4 to 6 months I get this huge collection of fluid, which I can't pass the fluid from home. So I have to end up going to the emergency room, and that leads to a hospital stay to put me on IV diuretics to get rid of the fluid. And then once they do that, um, by me having such a large amount of fluid and it get released so quickly, it caused weakness to my lower extremity. So then I have to go in inpatient rehab from 7 to 10 days. So that's kind of like what incurs that 21-day hospital stay because it's a combination of getting the fluid off and now strengthening my legs back up. And so in doing that, like that stops you with life, so everything that I have going on, whether it's working or, like even my blog situation, it's like I always that's why I'm so big on you have to take care of your star player, which is yourself. It's like you can love those around you and want to, be all that you can be on the job, all that you can be to your family, your spouses, your kids. But if you don't take care of your star player, all those things that you worried about, it doesn't even matter because you're gonna burn out, and that's something I had to learn because I always used to put everybody before me, whether I'm all about the job and all about my kids. And it's like, hold on. I used to think it was being selfish to make myself a priority, but you have to make yourself a priority. Otherwise, you know, you'll be no good to nobody if you down. If you just took that time out to take an hour to yourself every day or whatever it is that you do for enjoyment to release the day, like for me, I find myself a lot of times when I am depressed, I watch a lot of stand-up comedy because I know laughter is good. You might see me sometimes on my social media posting like comedy, funny clips of a stand-up comedy show, and just like laughing it induces those positive endorphins in your brain. So it kind of flipped the switch a little bit because for me, it definitely betters my mood when I'm feeling, down or whatever. So that's kind of like what I've been doing as of late.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that way that you describe yourself as your star player. I love that. I mean, what a great way to think about things. And we sometimes think, oh, I've got to make myself a priority, but really what we got to make ourselves the priority, because nothing happens when we're unwell or when we're not taking care of ourselves. And especially when so many things are coming at us in life, and especially with chronic pain or with an illness that we are having to manage. There's so many tasks that go into that. There's so much mental juggling of all of those tasks, and all of that takes so much energy, that it becomes the thing that we have to focus on, and the other things cannot get in the way of that. And that is so hard. And I love how you share your experience with that. What do you think are some of the hardest pieces of putting ourselves first and taking care of ourselves?
For me, I feel is letting yourself off the hook, because sometimes when you do things for yourself, you feel guilty because you feel like, oh, I want to be there for whatever issue. Like if you have it could be a friend or family member with issues, like you want to be there, you want to extend your hand, but you can't stretch yourself too thin. It's like stretching yourself thin is the worst thing you could do, because at the end of the day, if you do that, if you're down, who can you call on? I know me personally in my life, um, I'm always the go-to for everybody, family, friends. Oh, I need a resume done. Can you do my resume? My nephew will call me. He lives in Houston. Oh, TT, I'm looking for a job. I need a resume. Can you do my resume? And I'm like, you're not a working computer. It's templates. Like, we were just having this conversation because we was all on a group chat, because my brother is he got offered to take a job in LA. So he was just like briefing us on the situation. And so um, my nephew is getting ready to move back to St. Louis. So he was just saying like, oh, TT, can you do me a resume? Then he made a comment like, oh, it's so tedious. I said, oh, it's tedious for you, but what you think it is for us? You asking us to do something for you. We ain't worked your job. Like, we don't know your history. So I will have to get everything from you. Like, so if you don't think it's tedious for me, I said, I'm going to do the same thing I'm telling you to do. Open up a template, put in the information. You 32 years old, get it together. Like, we're not doing that. It's just like sometimes teaching your loved ones to be responsible, or even your friends, it's like, don't put all that weight on me, you know, and that goes into too, like setting boundaries. Like, like what I told you, you can't, if I would allow people to, if they ask me things and I allow them to, um, I take on the responsibility of everything that they ask, and where's the time for me? Because now I'm taking on all these extra duties outside of what I already have to deal with me. So now I'm putting myself on the back burner. So guess what that's going to do? Create another problem, And then when I get into a problem, I don't have nobody to call. I'm basically talking to my therapist, because it's like, I feel like for the people in my life, it's like, if you can't manage your life, why would I trust you to manage mine? That's how I feel. Like, I don't know if somebody hear that they get offended by it, but I mean, that's the truth. That's how I look at things. It's like, I don't choose to burden like my friends or my family with any of my issues too much. Because it's like, if you can't manage your life, why would I ask you something in regards to managing my life? So I'd rather just talk to a professional and figure it out.
That's so interesting because I can relate to that. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners can also relate to that. I think the question that is coming to me, of course, because I'm someone that takes responsibility for my life, it's what was that, I guess, for a lack of a better term, what was the breaking point for you to decide that that life that you just described, where you're everything for everybody else, what was the deciding factor to say, hey, I can't be that anymore and I now need to take care of myself? What was that moment for you?
Well, for me, it was a couple of things. One is when I'm sitting in that hospital bed in that hospital room for them 21 days, I pay attention to who's calling, who come, who show up. Or sometimes even with my children, it's like they calling me, oh, mommy, can you cash out me? I was like, do you realize I'm in the hospital, right? You realize this is downtime for me, no work for me. Like to me, the selfish and inconsiderateness of others, it really made me pay attention to, okay, I see how this is gonna go. But I have to change the narrative of that because normally when people would call me, oh, even with friends, oh, call me 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I want to hear about your baby daddy problems, like whatever you got going on, no, we're not doing that. Like, don't call me to discuss. I don't want to hear none of that. It's like I didn't give you advice over advice. It's like I feel like I'm in a hamster wheel right now. Like we're not doing that. So just setting those boundaries. And I've noticed since I've set those boundaries, phone calls stop because people feel some type of way. But it's like if you allow people to keep dumping on you, and then you don't realize how you internalize what's being told to you. So you find yourself like, wow, why is my mood jacked up? Like I don't ain't nothing going on with me. But because all this negativity is coming in your ear, you soaking it in, you soaking it up, so you internalize it. And so that's not good for me, especially, like with my health, people don't understand like stress is a silent killer. So you can find yourself stressing. It don't necessarily have to be about what you're going through, but because you care about friends or family, it could be things they're dealing with and you're internalizing things. And a lot of people don't respect boundaries. But once you put those boundaries in place, you really see, okay, who really for me. I see what this relationship was about. Like I said to myself in 2023, I said, I'm not doing no one-sided friendship. Like a friendship is a give and take. You know what I'm saying? It's like you pour into my cup, I pour into your cup. I can't keep pouring into people's cup and nobody pour into mine. Like I will have friends who call and dump all their problems on me, never ask like how I'm doing. So when I end up in hospital, oh, I didn't know you was sick. I didn't know. You wouldn't know because you never asked, how are you doing? It's all about you, and what you're dealing with and what you're going through. And can you help me, Tanisha? Like so. Yeah, I've noticed phone calls stop. Certain people I don't really talk to as much. I don't have an issue with them, but you notice what it is, and it's like now I'm 47. Like I have no time for nonsense. Like I'm like cut and dry with it. I'm so blunt, and I don't. I always tell. I was just telling my son. I said I can't. You know how some people it's the term we use in African American, we're like phony kicking it. I can't be phony with somebody. Like if I don't deal with you on no perspective, like just say we can have a mutual friend and I don't really mess with that friend, but we pull up to the friend house and you want to go in. I'm not gonna go in just because I'm with you. If I don't deal with that person, I will sit in the car. I'm that girl. Like I'm not gonna pretend to be, nice because oh we're in, she's your friend and we're gonna keep talking. Like no, we're not. I'm not doing that. I don't want to play out your house. I don't have to come in your house. Like I'm real cut and dry. If I don't deal with you, I don't deal with you, and that's just me.
And I know you mentioned like when you do get like when you were in the hospital or when you struggle with depression, like you do kind of withdraw into yourself and kind of seclude from other people. So you were talking about how you go over different coping skills on your videos, like journaling and things like that. Can you kind of talk about how you got into journaling and how someone else can kind of use that as a coping skill as well?
Well, ever since I was a kid, like about 9 years old, dealing with my tumultuous home life, I always used to write like poetry. That was my form of journaling. Like writing has always been an escape for me. Like even during my teachers used to always think I would be a journalist because I used to write all the time and write about everything. And even my grandmother was like, "Oh, you're gonna write a book one day or write for newspapers. You're always writing." Like my writing was always really, really good. And um I just found it a way, like when I couldn't talk to nobody, I could get it all out. And so I always kept like notebooks of whatever I was going through. I think I got heavily into journaling um when my oldest son father got killed when I was 18. So to like deal with that trauma, I journaled tons. It's like even though I isolated myself from people because I didn't really, it took me like a whole year to like go back outside. But during that time, I would be, me and my sister shared an apartment, and I would be in my room. I'll come out, take my shower, fix my son, come to eat, go back in my room, and I journal. And I did that for a whole freaking year just to deal with, you know, milestones, conversations me and him had. He couldn't wait till his son get a certain age, and my son was 1 when his dad got killed. So it's like just knowing that he wouldn't be here to experience all these different things, and my son would not have him around. So just trying to process that and deal with that, I found it easier to write out what I felt. Because at the time, I didn't know about like counseling and therapy. Like in the Black community, that's so taboo. Like if you say you need to counsel, people think, oh, she's crazy. Like which is I know way better now, but at that time I was 18. I didn't know any better. It's like I wish, like when I explained to you guys about my son having his suicide attempt, the greatest thing about that particular situation is being able to give him the professional help he needs at such a young age. So now he's 26, going on 27. He knows how to cope. He knows how to deal with different things. And it's like, if only I said I didn't start unpacking my childhood traumas and things until my son had a suicide attempt because I felt like I needed an extra support system. So not only did I seek out counseling for him, but I sought out counseling for myself. Because just dealing with that whole process, it's like that was hard for me to deal with him, but then I had to also deal with my own childhood issues and traumas. And like I say, when you're in therapy, it's like peeling back layers of an onion. And then you don't even know sometimes like certain things might trigger you in life, and you're like, why is I'm feeling this way? Well, I haven't dealt with that issue. But I've been in counseling therapy so long, it's like uh some weeks, like I told you, I'm fine. It's nothing that I need to talk about. And then sometimes, you know, I think now more of my depression is more like situational or related to my chronic pain. But other than that, I think I'm okay for the most part, but I still would not ever stop doing therapy. I don't care what the situation is.
Absolutely. You are such a living, breathing example to so many people through your blog, through your social media posts, through your videos, and through your work on this podcast and on the board, because you are not afraid to tell people that you go to counseling. You tell everybody that you go to counseling because it has helped you. And I just always am so inspired by that because you are able to say, as a mom, I did this for my child. This was a gift that I gave to my child. It wasn't easy. It was not easy to do that because, yeah, of course, as parents, we've got our own challenges. And when our child has a challenge, then we've got a challenge. And so being able to say, no, that was not easy. It was not easy to start counseling because there was so much stigma about it. It was so taboo to do that. It wasn't easy to start it for my son when he needed it, but that is a gift that I gave to him. It's a gift that I continue to give to myself so that I can be pouring from a full cup. And what I love that example you gave because a therapist only is pouring into our cup. And when we are in situations or we're in relationships where we feel like we're always pouring into other people, we're always pouring it, we're always the one being emptied out for somebody else, then it can be such a difference when we are in a relationship with somebody who, like a therapist, who they are only pouring into us. We don't have to do any reciprocation there. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I think journaling very similarly. We don't have to, our journal doesn't expect anything from us. And we don't have to give our journal anything in order for it to give us that support and be there for us and listen to us. And I think that's just such a beautiful expression of that. And I think it's so relatable for other people. How do you find that you were able to push through all of those challenges and the taboos of being able to start counseling?
Well, for me, it was kind of like a easy choice, so to speak, for myself. But I was getting a lot of pushback at the time from my immediate family. They're like, oh no, in the Black community, it's like pray about everything, go to church about everything. And it's like, okay, I've worked in healthcare for all these years. I know God created doctors and therapists for a reason. Like I understand prayer. I mean, you tap into what your spiritual beliefs is. I get that part. But sometimes things require medication to manage. Um, and like I was, like when I was getting into it with my immediate family, I was like, you're not seeing my child walk around the house 72 hours, no sleep. You're not seeing us hiding knives. I'm taking medication, locking it up at my job. Like, so all these different things us as a household had to do to protect my son. It's like, this is something I know that he needs. Like I would have been foolish. The outcome would have been way different had I not sought out counseling and therapy for him. And it didn't take the first counselor. He went to 5 before he would actually open up to one. And you got to think you're dealing with a teenager at this time. So this not like a little kid. You can say, do whatever. Like I can't make him talk to somebody he don't feel comfortable with. So it took a lot of trial and error, so to speak, to get him to talk. And then just because of the things that he was putting me through, like the emotional things he was putting me through. He started stealing, he was self-medicating. So all these things outside of I'm a single parent, I'm working a full-time job, I have a whole nother child in high school that's right with him. And none of these things could get my attention other than work and my son. So it's like it was times just being brutally honest, like I did like my child. That's not to say I don't love him, but I didn't like him because of the situation. It's like he started causing me more pain and more stress. He's stealing, he's doing all these things. Like, I don't like you right now, but I know what I need to do for you. I know what's my responsibility. I know that I love you. I want to see you in a better place. But when you have a child that's dealing with mental health issues, they have tunnel vision. And for me, like I say, with the situation with my son, like I was the present parent, so I was the punching bag. So the non-custodial parent, who was the reason for all of this that's going on, he's not present. So I was the punching bag for my son because I'm the parent that's there and I'm not talking negatively about his dad. So he couldn't understand that, like, like when he would get on the I hate him moments and I would speak life into his situation. Like, we're in another state. We don't know what's going on in his life. Oh, you're taking up him. No, I'm not. Because that's a true statement. Now, I could be one of these bitter baby mama, so to speak, and, oh, he's a piece of this. And, like, I don't feel that that was helpful to him because at the end of the day, my son loves his dad. And you got to realize a child is a product of two people. So even in my, like on my social media and even with my friends, I always tell them, like, when you're dealing with a non-custodial parent, whether it's man or woman, don't bash that person because at one point you love this person, you created this child. Now I know sometimes in a co-parenting situation, things could be hard for you, as adults, but let adults deal with the situation because you have to think when you're talking bad about that non-custodial parent, what if that child has more features like the person you're talking about? A child can internalize like, oh, they feel this way about me. It's about me. And you could be doing more damage than their non-custodial parent not being there because you're there with the child every day and you study speaking all these negative things about this non-custodial parent, and then the child internalizes that. So you have to be super careful. And I know sometimes like co-parenting situations could be so difficult. You could be dealing with a narcissist or whatever the situation may be, but take the child out of the equation. Take your personal feelings out and just do what's best for the child. Like what is conducive for this child, regardless of how the other partner could be making it hard for you. I just feel like if trust and believe me, like I had definitely some strong feelings about my child's father, but I just wouldn't do it in ear range of my son or when he was around. But yeah, I just don't believe in doing that. It serves no purpose to the main person that's it's gonna affect, which is the child.
I'm sitting here and of course I'm just listening and I have so many questions, but I think the question that's coming to me the most is I'm an advocate for mental health professionals, for therapy and all of that, but I'm also an advocate for togetherness. So who are your people? Like, I hear you talk about people who always want something from you, need something from you, but who are those people that you can just simply be you, not expecting anything from them or them expecting anything from you? Like, who are your people? Do you have people? Like, I look at it this way, and hopefully it comes across clearly. It's almost as if it sounds like you're paying for a friendship through your therapist, right? So I want to know, who are those people outside of the therapist that you can sit genuinely, transparently, vulnerably, and just be you? Do you have those people?
One thing about me, I'm always me. So
Okay.
regardless of who the who is, I'm gonna always be me because I feel like like I'm at a place like I love me.
Okay.
So I'm not finna try to be something that I'm not. If you can't accept me for who I am, how I am, I can take constructive criticism. I'm not above reproach of anything. Um, I just feel like, like I'm always honest about what I'm going through. It's just that far as the advice piece for me, it's like, um, when you see people like in a hamster wheel, or I could say like people I've known in my life for 10 plus years. My brother just was asking me because I'm like, oh, I want to move, before the end of the summer. He like, oh, move back to Chicago. And I'm like, why would I do that? Like my thing saying why would I do that is like not only the violence, but the friend groups. Like sometimes you know people for years, but you outgrow them. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Right.
see that their life is so stagnant. They study doing the same thing, same place. It's like if you want to elevate in life or even in thinking, it's like you got to surround yourself with like-minded people.
Right.
Like somebody asked me like I lived in Minnesota, I lived in Wisconsin, and the reason I like working outside of the home and working in healthcare because I was around like-minded people. Like a lot of times in my life when I was younger, I dumbed myself down to deal with people, whether it's a man in my life, a friend, you know what I'm saying? Like they wasn't mentally like on my level. Like I was always really um smart in school. I was like an honor student, so it's like being around people who's not so intelligent or even just not focusing on like family. Like when I started having kids, I stopped hanging out like that. People would see me like once every 6 months. My kids was a priority. Whereas that was in the area where I was living in inner city, like a housing, like a housing unit. So when I'm getting up going to work at 3:30 in the morning and taking my kids to daycare, they just going in the house. This like the summertime. They just going in the house to go to sleep, and I'm going to work. When I'm coming back home, they just waking up, coming outside, like hanging out all night, So it's like they didn't understand me. Like to them, I was the weird one because I didn't want to sit up on public aid and get a once a month check. Like I wanted to go work a job, and if I had to travel, I would travel up to 2 hours on public transportation to get to work. That's just how passionate I was about not being on government assistance. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a single parent. I have 3 kids at that time. 3 kids, a cash payment from Department of Human Services, $278. I had 2 kids in diapers. What I'm gonna do with that? Like that's not gonna pay anything. So it's like those type of situations, like being put in those type of situations. I think my kids, for me, they drove me. They gave me drive to want more, to want better. That's the reason I ended up leaving Chicago, left all my family and moved out of state. I wanted my kids to, like learn something better, be around a diverse group of people. Like everything ain't black around you. You got to learn how to deal with every group of people. And Minnesota was like the perfect place because it was like a culture shock a little bit because you had like Somalian residents, you had like Hmong residents. So even when when I started working at the children's hospital, there they taught me about like diversity training. And then when I went to college in my sociology class, like I learned a lot about, like different cultures, embracing different cultures. Like sometimes you might see me doing this with my hand. Well, in the Hmong culture, that's offensive. And you wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know that, because I never been around, that. So just learning all these different things, like the normal way we do things can be offensive in another culture. Like even learning about the Somalian culture, like a lot of times when I would go into a patient's room and mom and dad is present, you can't talk to mom. You have to talk to dad. Mom is going to put her head down. But that's their culture. So I can't frown upon somebody's culture. It's just like learning all these different things. And it's like my kids now thank me for taking them out of Chicago and introducing them to, like them, they not afraid of change. Whereas I have family members so afraid of change, they'll stay in Chicago the rest of their life. They would never like pack up and move out of state because people are so afraid of the unknown. Me, I will move to Timbuktu. I don't care. Like I have no problem packing up, leaving, starting over again somewhere. And then my mother always said, "Oh, that's a vagabond spirit. Like you just, like it's not." She said, like, it's not stable to keep doing that. And I was like, "No, that's your way of thinking. Like you can't put your insecurities or your lack of not wanting to change off on me. Sometimes you gotta listen to people when they're giving you advice because they putting their fears off on you, like, oh, you can't do that. Why would you do that? You're not afraid. Like even with my social media, sometimes like they're like, are you scared to be on camera talking about that? I was like, why? Like everybody's going through it. Like you think you're the only one? No, you're not the only one. Like if my experience in life could help someone else, then I'm all for it. And I'm always very transparent. Like I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm very honest. If someone has a question, I give them the blunt, honest truth. Like even with my children, I'm so like people think because I have three boys, like even with my kids' mom, like I'm gonna be a cheerleader for my sons, whether they right and wrong. No, I'm the one that's all over their backside. Like, you're not finna be, like talking to a woman like that. No, you're not gonna handle that like that. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm a woman first. And I used to hate dating guys whose mothers just would, no matter what their sons did, right or wrong, they cheerlead. Like, I'm not that girl. I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm all on the woman's side. Like, I'll tell my son a new one, about being, like disrespectful or doing something that's, like just not right, and my boys know that about me, and I don't make it, no issue. They always know that's why they come to me, no matter what the situation is. I know, like even when my middle son was like self-medicating, he would come to me and tell me like, I'm stressed. I can't, even as an adult, like, oh, I started doing this. I think at one point he was going through something and he tried cocaine. I was so like enraged because I told you guys like I grew up with a parent who was a drug addict. So like even with me and my siblings, we always said like we never tried anything because we were so afraid of having an addictive personality when it came to that. So all of us we like squares on a straight and narrow. That's why my siblings say like I don't understand like how your kids like if they like try pot or whatever you don't do anything. Like, why would they, do that? And it's like, you can't really base it off like what I do or what I don't do. But what I've always tried to do when raising my kids is for a long time, I think my kids were almost teenagers before they knew I even drink wine. Like, I just didn't do certain things in front of them. And for me, the reason I didn't do it is because I didn't want to have that back and forth with a teenager, like, oh, well, you do it, like, why can't I do it? Because you do it, so that was my rhyme or reason for like respecting my kids. Like, even when I was dating and they was young, I didn't bring different men around my kids. At the end of the day, you have to respect your children. Like, that's why I don't understand now. I see so much of like on the news or social media where kids have been touched or different things because mom known a guy for 2 weeks and she left him with so and so while she went to work. Like, are you nuts? Like what is that? Like I'm always on my boys about their kids and like y'all better work opposite of each other. Don't put my grandkids in daycare. Like you just can't trust a lot of things the way you could before. I know even when my kids was in daycare, my screening process was rigorous. They looking at me like, who is this young girl? Yes, I kept all my kids together because my oldest one could always talk, tell me what was going on. Like, just, you just got to be mindful. You can't be naive. I don't care what the surface of a person look like. You're not gonna, in anything you meet a person representative, whether it's a relationship, friendship, you don't get to see the nuts and bolts of a person till you've been around them for a while, or you've known them, or you've been put in certain situations, and then you can see the true character of a person.
Yeah, and it sounds like you do use like social media and your blog a lot to connect with people like across the world that you wouldn't normally get to connect with either. Can you give some examples of like TikTok videos or what people can expect on your blog?
But normally, if I do a blog post because I would normally post on my blog Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so normally I would share that blog post, or lately I've been trying to go live more, like to talk more, because a lot of times people don't like to read, they rather listen to you talk. So whatever kind of like the situation is, I know when I had did a video about chronic pain, just explaining, saying what that is. And then I just had a birthday, St. Patrick's Day, so um, just giving gratitude for turning 47 years old, because I think about like a lot of people I grew up with who's not here anymore. So, like a lot of times people want all these superficial things, like when it comes to their birthday or whatever. It's like me, I'm just blessed to have breath in my body just to live, and be in, a decent health, and want to be even more in better health. So that's what I'm striving to like um do. And then a lot of times too, like with my with my blog and my social media, it's like I know I'm advocating for mental health and wellness, but a lot of times it's self-talk. I'm talking to myself at the same time. So I can be talking to myself like out of a situation, or okay, I'm dealing with this, let me touch on this topic. Like today I'll be posting about anxiety, just touching on, what that is and how to manage it and what you can do for that. Because a lot of people have anxiety. Like a lot of times people don't know what that is, especially in like I said, in our community, it's so taboo to talk about mental health, or, a lot of people self-medicate. A lot of people smoking pot, they drinking, and at the end of the day, all of those are temporary fixes. You still don't have to deal with the man in the mirror, you know, so to speak. So you have to just figure out what's best for you. But a lot of time people just overcompensate um, with just a lot of substances and not dealing with the root of their issues.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Why do you do what you do, Tenesha? What makes you wake up every morning to do what you do?
Because I have a, I feel like I have experience, and it's a lot of people that don't have a lot of knowledge about mental health and wellness. Like I had did a post talking about mental health versus mental illness, because a lot of times people get it confused. A mental illness and mental health are totally two different things. Mental health is like checks and balances. You making sure like, you surround yourself with the right people, you thinking positively, like all these things. A mental illness is something that can be managed by medications and other things like that. So a lot of times people don't know the difference between the two, and they intertwine them and think they all one and the same. And that's not the case. But I notice like when anybody has some type of mental health issue, it's always like joked on, or like even like when you see Kanye West and you see like him dealing with, clearly the man has some mental health issues, but people laugh at it all the time because he's on a platform and he spews like certain things out his mouth. But clearly, if you got common sense, like he's dealing with mental health issues, and probably even some trauma, when his mama passed away. Yeah, I feel like he ain't been right since then, but you know, that's me analyzing on the outside looking in.
If you could give a suggestion then to somebody on the fence about starting counseling services, I know you're a big advocate for it yourself. Could you give a suggestion for somebody who's thinking about starting it for themselves?
Just start. I feel like, find someone that you feel comfortable with. Like a lot of times they have places where you can pick counselors and therapists based on, your beliefs, their background. Sometimes if people feel comfortable talking to someone of the same ethnicity or, like sometimes I've seen people say like, oh, I don't feel like this person will understand my lifestyle or my struggles because they're not my ethnicity, but I don't believe that. I mean, issues are issues and problems are problems. I don't think it has a color barrier on it. We all deal with the same things, have some of the same insecurities and things like that. So I would just say just start until you find someone that you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. I love that. And you talked about, how it was trial and error when you were starting counseling and when you were starting it for your son and when you were starting it and just the way that you were able to push through that and continue to do that to help yourself and to help your son is just amazing. And the way that you talk so openly and so authentically about every aspect of your life is just so inspiring to me, because you're demonstrating for other people what it is to be vulnerable and what it is to share that much of ourselves in order to help somebody else who might hear it and who might be going through something similar. So we just absolutely love when you were on the show. And it's why you've been on 4 times. It's why I'm sure right after this, Marta will be sending an email to see if you will come back and join us again, because we just love it. I feel like so much of what you said today goes back to authenticity and the trust that authenticity brings when we show it. I loved your example of being able to admit to ourselves when we don't like the people around us, like the people that we love, right? So our partner, our child, our parents, right? That we might love them so much with every part of our being, and we also might not like them at all in any given moment. And I think the it's so empowering that you were able to be that authentic with yourself. I think it's so empowering that you're able to, like, I had never heard the term phony kicking it, so I love that. I've never heard that before, but like when as soon as you said it, I knew exactly what you meant. And I love that because when we name something, we can be more aware of it, and we can, when we observe that, we can be like, oh, I know what that is. And we can see it in ourselves when we're trying to do it. And so when we're put in a social situation, we're like, I don't like that person, right? Why should I pretend that we're friends, right? Why should I pretend that we're hanging out? I just think that is so awesome, and it just speaks to authenticity. Again, your example of how you talk to your son and you always are loving to him, but the way that that love shows up is in that honesty and in that authenticity and trust, and telling them, no, what you did was not good, right? Like that was not a good performance. My daughter and I were watching Reels the other day, and we saw this really cute video of this little 4-year-old, and she's trying to hula hoop and she's trying to hula hoop. And then the dad goes, right? And have you guys seen it? The dad goes and stands behind her and holds the hula hoop, and she's doing this, and she thinks she's hula hooping. And I watched that with Monica, and I told Monica, I wouldn't do that for you. I'm sorry. Right? Like, the reason that you can hula hoop is because I would never pretend that you are good at hula hooping when you're terrible at hula hooping, right? So it just brought that to mind for me because of how much trust it builds in the people around us when we are authentically ourselves, when we're brave enough to say, no, I don't like that at all, right? Or, hey, oh, stop, please stop doing that. I don't like that. When we're authentically saying that, then every time we say, yes, I love you, yes, you, this part of you, I love this about you, it actually means something, and they can trust that you are telling the truth because they know that you'll tell them the truth when you don't like it. So it's just been such a great theme. I feel like this hour of authenticity, being truly ourselves, being vulnerable. And we just love you. We just absolutely love having you on the show. So you guys can check out Tenesha's blog, and it is at www.spice2yourlife.blogspot.com. You can also check her out. She is a frequent guest blogger on the Heart and Solutions blog as well at www.heartandsolutions.net. Tenesha has been on our board for the last, I think, 4 years. We're coming up on 4 years. So just such a living, breathing example of mental health in our community. And we're just so grateful to know you and to work with you.
I'm Tenesha Gatson, and I definitely need a counselor.
Awesome.
And I'm Krista Hunt.
I'm Carell Richards.
I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor, and so do you.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. Now, we want to hear from you. Text us or give us a call at 515-650-3231. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236. And if you're a provider seeking play therapy CEUs, you can find us on patreon.com/youneedatraining. We'll see you for the next episode, Sunday at 5.